The world of water skiing is always at the mercy of Mother Nature, and she is certainly making her presence known with white caps and strong winds here this weekend in Omaha. Hi, everyone. I'm Doug Dunbar, along with the coach, David Benzel. We are at the Baker's Heartland Classic, just a stone's throw from downtown Omaha. And, Dave, the wind is certainly the big factor this weekend. Not so much whether Carl Roberge continues his dominance, but who's going to hang on in these conditions.
Well, the conditions are so challenging here that some of the younger skiers will be pressed. Mark Lane, who's a fairly new member to the 200-foot-plus club, is jumping here today. He must be a little nervous. But then the veterans like John Swanson and Fred Kruger are out here, and they're complaining, not to anyone in particular, but they've had rough water at several stops. And they were complaining because the safety director, C.W. Lowe, was thinking about canceling men's jumping. Well, the guys got together and talked with C.W. Lowe, and I got a chance to visit with John Swanson and asked him, what did that discussion go like? Because I know the jumpers want to go out and go for it anyway. John, there seems to have been some discussion between you, some of the other jumpers, and our safety director, C.W. Lowe. What's going on regarding the conditions here?
Well, you know, the unfortunate thing, Dave, is we've dealt with this a few weekends this year, which more than we ever have. It's been really nasty conditions. We skied in Hartford, which was worse than this. We skied yesterday, and it was just a little bit better. C-Dub basically didn't want the onus on his shoulders. He said, look, guys, as safety director, I shouldn't let you jump. But if you guys are willing to vote unanimously, the 7 of you that are jumping, to jump, then the onus is on your shoulders. And we had a vote of the jumpers. There's some people that are depending on points today to make the tour finals. And, you know, we did it yesterday for no money. The money's on the line today. That's where it's at.
So the gladiators of the air will do battle. You see the water lapping up in the base of the 6-foot monster. C.W. Lowe, though, the safety director here in Omaha, has deemed these conditions jumpable. So we'll get underway with action. Boy, I would tell you, training in Seattle, I would guess that John Swanson is probably trained in more rough water than anybody else here.
And cold conditions, too, compared to the Florida conditions he's used to. But no one likes to compete in this because now the pressure is on to jump far, to win, and look at these skis bouncing coming into the ramp. John Swanson still trying to come up and kick the top, but he's being cautious, and rightfully so, because right before the ramp you could see those skis having difficulty keeping them on edge.
Look for a little pre-jump maybe at the bottom. Looks like he stood up too much too soon.
Well, some upper body crush, and of course getting the lift is going to be difficult because they're unsettled coming into the bottom, but having any kind of speed into the bottom is also going to be challenging.
Nevertheless, John Swanson will have the honor of setting the distance for the rest of the field to beat. 170 feet on jump number 1.
There's a certain amount of just good fortune that could play a part here. If the water is calm right before the ramp, he might get that good solid edge into the bottom. On the other hand, if he's bouncing around, he won't get it. Here, clearly, he missed his lift. Trying to set up, getting the timing factor right, but all the way into the ramp, knowing that he's fighting through chop and wakes, hoping to keep the edges down just before the base of the ramp, having to sit back on his heels. Now, Doug, I want to point out something. When you come into the ramp that fast and you're bouncing around, there's a natural tendency to sit back on your heels. You cannot help it.
It's a safety feeling.
It's a safety feeling, and you cannot get your spring that way.
Yeah, Swanee will use that 171st jump as the mark for the rest of the field. It'll wave for the crowd in Omaha. They appreciate the efforts in these conditions. Freddie Kruger, Louisiana. He's been up and down all season long, hasn't posted a huge victory to date.
It's been a frustrating year, and he told me quite honestly, he said, I cannot quite figure out what's been going on. He says, I can't put my finger on it. He hoped the weather conditions would be better here today. He wants to get a 200-foot jump. There won't be any. Instead, Doug, just exactly what we talked about happened at the base of the ramp. Safety factor went back on his heels, feeling himself unstable at the bottom, and he went right out the back.
Well, we saw the wave from Freddie Kruger, our first indication. First and foremost, he looks like he's okay.
He's really squatting here through the wakes. On his heels already. This already spells disaster.
There go the shoulders.
And, of course, with the hips behind your bindings, the skis shoot out in front of you, and it's really an uncomfortable feeling. Not, I don't think a painful fall, but it could have been worse.
Freddie Kruger will take just a moment here and put it all together. Meanwhile, we'll talk to our current leader, John Swanson, 170 feet.
John, I'm interested in your perspective on this event now, having been out on the water.
It's as bad as we all thought. There's no doubt about it. I think each guy's just got to make his own decision. You know, after my 70, I was close to coming in, and then I thought, you're out here, the money's on the line. You've crashed going 190 before. If you're going to crash today, it's not going to be as far. You know, and I brought it down on my next two, and you know, like the second one, I have my arms in, but the third one, I hit a roller at the bottom or a wave at the bottom and landed on the jump. It was dangerous. It's miraculous that I didn't crash, but it was my decision at that point to let go. You know, I think we're really making a good statement as pros. We all want to be pros. We want the prestige of being pros. And today we prove that, you know, for the sponsors, for the crowd, for our own sponsors, we're willing to do what it takes to be called pros.
Well, they certainly are pros to go out in this slop here in Omaha, Nebraska. Kruger has put his skis back on, but is he there mentally?
Well, that's the question. It wasn't a hard crash, so I think Fred will put this thing back together again. He's got to get on a hard edge this time, stay up on his toes, and there, that's better now. You can see that he kept his body over his bindings that time. Not an explosive kick. That was a very cautious kick, but it was vertical instead of back. So this will be a longer jump.
Little confidence builder for Freddie Kruger.
And you can see the difference even in the air. When a skier is right over his bindings, you know that he has left the ramp in the proper position.
But the difference between Freddie Kruger and our leader, John Swanson, is 10 feet. Kruger leaps into second place. Action returns in Omaha, Nebraska. It's windy, it's wild, and it is. Back in a moment. Welcome back to the 1996 Cafe de Columbia Waterski Tour. It is brought to you by Mastercraft Ski Boats, the leader and pulling farther ahead. Also by 100% Colombian coffee. Look for this symbol to find the richest coffee in the world. Doug Dunbar, Dave Benzel, Omaha, Nebraska. Man, the wind is blowing across the plains today at the Baker's Heartland Classic. This is Danny Zeisler.
Dan Zeisler is a big guy. We haven't seen him on the Pro Tour very much this season. He's wearing goggles. Not a bad idea.
It's like he's snow skiing.
He should be able to keep his skis on edge. He's got the body weight that a Freddie Kruger does not have, but not the experience here on the Pro Tour.
Again, your leader right now, John Swanson, 170 feet.
He's getting a real taste of professional water skiing conditions here.
But I look back at that replay, and man, I say, he is big. That's a lot of beef coming into that ramp.
Well, actually, he's not all that tall, but he is solid and broad. And he carries that strength well into the base of the ramp. I've seen Dan go, you know, into the high 80s, even low 90s. Been jumping very well lately with Bruce and Tony Nivell, training with them at their house.
This is Carl Roberge's record on the tour right now, 210 feet. Back in High Point, North Carolina, of course. Terrific conditions that day. We'll certainly not see jumps in that range today. Carl yet to jump in the competition. He could go undefeated this season. That's still a big question mark. Does he have what it takes? Zeisler, goggles on, jump number 2.
Well, this setup area is where you start to have second thoughts about what the next few seconds are going to bring. You must attack, and he did. He attacked the ramp much more that time, showing some confidence, or at least fooling himself into acting confident. He carried a much better edge into the base of the ramp. Getting pulled up at the wakes a little bit, but then the right ski rolled back over and put a good solid edge against the tow rope, giving him the tight line he needed into the bottom. That's a better jump.
Yeah, great jump for these conditions. Danny Zeisler. And actually, with the distance that Zeisler receives, he's going to bump Freddie Kruger out of that second spot and take it over himself.
Isn't that interesting? Because Dan Zeisler is the only skier in this whole field who works full-time for a living outside of the water ski industry.
Here's how we stand now. Swanson still the leader, 170. Zeisler and Kruger, as mentioned, bumps down to third. When action continues, he works inside the industry. You might have seen him in years past. Not too much this year, though. National champion Ron Thompson.
Have you ever considered a career as a commercial diver?
Welcome back. The Cafe de Colombia Professional Water Ski Tour. Your current leader, John Swanson, with a paltry 170 feet, but that's a huge jump in these conditions, Dave.
Well, most of the guys are thinking 170 is not so much. We should be able to beat that, but that's what they think until they get on the water.
First time Ron Thompson went over 200 feet. He did it at the end of 1995 and won himself a national championship with that jump.
Yes, and on the same day, he won a slalom title at the Nationals. Interesting, Doug. Ron is on new, bigger skis. He was one of the last guys to convert over along with Patrice Martin. He told me he's been on these skis only 10 days, and every one of the practice sessions he had on these new, larger skis was in perfect conditions.
Watch that left ski. Way back.
Yes, and that's, I have to say, typical of Ron Thompson. He usually comes into the ramp with the one ski back a little bit. He tends to get pulled out the front a little bit. He rides so close up on his toes that many people think he's going to crash when he, in fact, does not.
We told you distances would be down for Ron Thompson. He's a member of the 200-foot club, but 152 on the first leap.
Can you imagine trying to get used to these bigger skis at these conditions? Oh, look at that. Talk about the right ski getting behind.
How about the save of the day for Ron Thompson?
And it was interesting the way he brought the ski back, because usually when a ski gets back behind you, especially these big tipped skis, they're gone. They don't come back anymore. But he swept it around. He feathered the tip back under him. Watch right here. It turns sideways, it drops, and he swung it back in. Cool move by Ron Thompson.
Very cool, and thankfully he could do that, or else he might have ended up on his forehead. Second jump, 2 feet shorter actually than his first jump, so Ron Thompson will post a 152 to challenge all competitors. You know, water skiing here in Omaha, the same as it is all across the country and across the world. But you know what, Nebraska, the Cafe de Colombia Water Ski Tour, Swanson, Zeisler, Kruger. That's how we stand, 1, 2, 3 as of right now. To the water, though, Mark Lane, who has actually been jumping and training with our current leader, John Swanson.
Well, he's originally from Rome, Georgia. He has been here in the Pacific Northwest. And John Swanson says this guy has one of the smoothest cuts in the business. He is in the 200-foot club, but this is his first stop this year on the Pro Tour, and he makes it into the finals.
Solid cut to the ramp, like you said, but not a lot of lift.
And he'll have to put something more together for this next one. But John was referring to the way he cuts through the wakes. He said that in practice, he's never seen a young man so early in his career have such a smooth, fluid motion from his turn all the way to the ramp.
Commanding that speed is oh so important when the jumpers, you see 156 on jump number 1, when the jumpers come at the ramp, when they make that cut, they're anywhere from 55 to 65 miles an hour.
Mark Lane trying to put as much experience as he can muster right here on the ramp, and it's not enough. You saw him on his heels again, coming into that ramp, bouncing around, just automatically set him back. Safety device kicking in. It takes some real mental toughness in these conditions.
Again, when they get to the top of the ramp, this 10 to 15 knot wind blowing right at them from the right side.
Mark Lane grew up skiing in age division competition through the American Water Ski Association, all its programs, so he has a lot of experience behind him as a young junior skier, but he's up against a different caliber of competition here.
Lane only 156 his best jump. He won't be in the mix. Carl Roberge, will he have an undefeated season? 2 stops to go, including this one. And Scotty Ellis on the comeback trail next. You're watching the 1996 Cafe de Colombia Water Ski Tour, and it's brought to you by Sea-Doo, the best-selling boat in the world, and by Mastercraft Ski Boats, the leader and pulling farther ahead. Very windy day, Omaha, Nebraska. Baker's Heartland Classic. Doug Dunbar along with Dave Benzel. Let's take a look at where we stand right now. John Swanson holding on through much of the competition with that 170-foot jump.
Well, and John Swanson, who knows that 170 probably doesn't hold up against Carl Roberge's record this year, but he also knows that the conditions are more challenging than what even Carl Roberge surmises.
This young man has been on the comeback trail. He's had a multiple of injuries. Scotty Ellis.
Well, the most serious one, of course, a year ago in Indianapolis when he dislocated his hip when his arm sling broke.
Look at him bounce around.
His strategy here, Doug, is that he must jump conservatively. Oh, he's really got pulled up at the wakes, but look at the lift he got, and then almost went out the front.
Gust of wind?
No, this is from coming in, letting up before the ramp, and then kicking it. So he didn't have a nice tight line until he kicked it, and then the boat almost pulled him out the front.
Wow, you'd never think that jump off that approach.
Yeah. You know, it's sort of an unusual thing. If he had stayed down and cut through the ramp better, that would not have happened. But he was up so high and almost stalling out and those tips dropping like that.
Scott Ellis just jumps into second place, 12 inches behind John Swanson, 169 feet, and he's still bouncing around.
His father told me that his whole strategy is to jump conservatively, keep everything under control, and get his lift. And there's another great explosion off the top of the ramp. Scott Ellis, more than anyone else in the field so far today, is getting his lift.
Looked like on the fly as well, using a little bit of that Omaha breeze.
Much better edge coming in the bottom right there and able to stay over his toes and get the vertical lift.
Give me some wind, give me some wind.
Yeah, not the speed that we need to go 190, but this is a pretty jump and a very controlled one.
Hey,
Oh.
170 feet. Now what happens here, of course, co-leaders.
That's right.
John Swanson, 170. Scott Ellis, 170. They are both tied for the lead. But at this point, we ask again, does it even matter? Carl Roberge, dominant all season. He has not lost a tour stop yet.
With Carl's size, he has an advantage in this rough water. It is easier with his body weight. Oh, did you
almost
see that?
lost it, yes.
Right ski dip, almost lost his ski. Now he's got to compose himself.
Flying across the wake.
And talk about, oh, look at this. This is unbelievable. He got the spring, he kicked the top of the ramp, and was on his toes so much.
Looked like a bad crash. We saw the wave, though. Carl's fine. A little frustrated, I think, at most.
Well, this is almost a comedy here. One thing after another. First, he almost loses a ski, then gets it all collected. Pretty good resistance off this ramp for that kind of speed.
Hey, it's not a bad jump.
But watch, when he lands, one ski stops and he just bails right out the front.
Oh, Carl Roberge. Now, what happens in this, of course, a fall is not counted for any type of distance whatsoever.
I was saying that because of his size, Carl has a greater chance of keeping his edges down in the water. His weight alone helps him keep those edges down. You saw the left ski get behind there, and this front bailout is not a painful kind of thing. He just went right out between his skis, and they kind of caught up to him later.
For jump number one, Carl Roberge will be officially listed as a fall. No distance credited there. He'll put his equipment back together and himself. Meanwhile, let's talk to our current co-leader.
Scott, your strategy on the water appeared to take the form of a three-quarter cut, shall we say, and get the lift instead of going for so much speed.
What I wanted to do is basically just what you said, a three-quarter cut, make a big turn, because I did not want to sink and have that big pull. As you see, everybody was moving across the waves. Rough water like this, you still got to be aggressive, but you also got to control your aggression and just keep really, really still. And as long as you stay still, the rough water, your legs act as a shock absorber, and the ramp just throws you in the air.
What does this present for Carl Roberge out there?
He had a good run on his first one, but as you see, he's fell on his landing. The pressure's on. It's not a hard jump. It's not an easy jump for Carl. He's just got to really think. And with him being the most experienced jumper out there, he's jumped in this before. And if he comes away with the win, then he's a better man today. If not, then Swanson and I are going to duke it out.
We certainly wish him luck if they end up duking it. Roberge has another shot. Hard to believe 3 years ago this guy was ready to hang it up.
Well, don't expect him to take a three-quarter cut here. While that was a good strategy for Scott Ellis, Carl will go from wide and go hard. He knows it's all or nothing here. He attacks the ramp in windy conditions. Carrying the speed that he needs, maybe not the height, maybe not the lift. There was lots of speed there. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, I thought he was a little bit back as well. I think he got a lot of distance, but he looked back.
But here's the thing. Carl Roberge has learned through the years that if he backs off, he goes nowhere. He must attack the ramp, get wide, get lots of angle, and go after it. And having learned that lesson, I'm not surprised to see him really carry some steam into the ramp.
Again, our current co-leaders, John Swanson, Scott Ellis, 170 feet. Roberge needs to better that mark to stay undefeated this season.
He's up wider on the boat than probably anybody else in the field so far. And look at how hard he buried those edges. Getting the steam early, really cutting in, maybe backing off a little at the base of the ramp, and that's why he's on his heels coming off the top.
Straighten out a little bit as well.
But he had the speed. He had the speed. Well, he's glad he didn't go out the front on this landing.
Carl hangs onto the rope. Credit that jump and credit an undefeated season to date. 176 feet. Roberge has done it again, Dave.
And by 6 feet, you know, not a huge jump, but these two guys know that the master was on the water.
Ellis, Swanson, congratulatory second place hug. And again, Carl Roberge has pulled it off.
And he has been consistent, but Scott Ellis and John Swanson are hitting their stride right now. Both of them jumping better here the second half of the season. I think Portland, the next stop, is where they would like to steal some of Carl's thunder.
And that is the next and final stop, actually. Carl will most likely wrap up the overall Tour Cup when we get there. But now, Dave Benzel's with our winner here in Omaha.
Carl, I'm not sure it gets any rougher than it is out here in Omaha today, and it took you all the way to the third jump.
Sure did, Dave. I mean, when it gets like this, it gets inconsistent, and I just got to stick with my theory. Keep doing what I've been doing, be patient with my cut, and hope that it turns out right into the bottom. A little rough on my second one, and first one felt good, and I just lucky to get that last one.
Well, it seems like what happens right at the base of the ramp was the story for everybody. Some guys were back on their heels, some guys bouncing into the ramp. You did seem to get lucky on the third one.
Well, I figure 1 out of 3, and if I kept doing the same thing, one of them was going to hit. But I'm happy to win.
It continues the streak. You're undefeated for the season.
Yeah, you know, with every weekend, too, it keeps getting harder and harder. I feel more and more pressure, and the guys don't like it. and I'm really fighting to do something nobody's ever done before.
Well, one more stop to go in Portland, one more victory to wrap up the year.
That'd be nice. I'm going to go for it.
And it almost seems as though he may not even have to go for it. The Cafe de Colombia International Waterski Cup is owned by nobody else but Carl Roberge. He will end up the overall winner at the end of the season in Portland, Oregon. And that's where Dave Benzel and myself, Doug Dunbar, will join you from next time for the Budweiser Waterski Championship.
Here's what's so interesting about this. No one else has ever gone undefeated on a Pro Tour season like this, and he's got quite a streak going, but by his own admission, the pressure is building. He knows some other people would like to rain on his parade in Portland.
Yeah, not even the great Sammy Duvall had this kind of good thing going either.
You know, and he was one of the greatest of all time, and we hope that maybe he'll come back. But in the meantime, it's Carl's day in the sun.
No question. We'll see you next time in Portland, Oregon. Doug Dunbar, Dave Benzel. So long.